Okay, Manny. Who are we probing today? Oh, come on, Manny. You said I could probe somebody.
Okay, this is UFO Buster Radio, and welcome to episode number 82. And this is the midweek episode, and like I did last week, I posted out a question to find out what you guys wanted to hear about in this particular episode, and it was pretty much open book. Whatever you wanted to hear, I will do a little bit of research on. So the winner is Aaron from Facebook, who posted a request to do a little chat, a little presentation, a little spoken word on the black-eyed children phenomena, or black-eyed kids, or BEKs. And actually, if you go on Google and search by the acronym BEK, you'll get plenty of hits on articles regarding this particular phenomena. Now, I can tell you right now that if some little kid and his sibling with black eyes shows up on my doorstep, you're darn tootin' I will not be opening the door. Furthermore, I implore you to do the same. So in looking through the history of black-eyed kids, the little demonic twerps, the potentially hybrid aliens that show up at the door at inconvenient times to try to get in, the task that I gave myself was to find out where in the heck did this start? Who was the first victim of the black-eyed kids? And apparently, the story overwhelmingly comes back to the state of Texas. Now, am I surprised? No. Do I think this is a real phenomena? You'll have to make the call, because in looking for the origin of this, and for me posting that this was going to be a topic for this midweek, I also came across another bit of information. And we'll cover that after we go through the origin of the black-eyed little runts that are going around screwing with people. And in some cases, people are getting hurt. So first, let's start with the man that's blessed as being the one who started the whole phenomena by reporting it, and his name was Brian Bethel. So if you live in the city of Abilene, Texas, the name Brian Bethel is something very familiar to you. And the reason why is because Brian Bethel is still there. So apparently in the spring or summer, nobody knows. Here's the thing that gets me about this origin story, because no matter where I went, no one knew exactly when. In 1996, it was that Brian Bethel reported his little incident with the black-eyed kids. But the guy is actually a reporter, and apparently a pretty good one. So why couldn't he report this correctly? It's beyond me. But the story goes that Mr. Bethel in 1996 was heading to his ISP provider, his internet service people, to make a payment. So he was sitting in his car outside of the office of this place, which was apparently near a movie theater, and it was late. It was between 9 and 10 p.m. at night, because black-eyed kids don't like daylight. And so there he is. He's sitting there. He's trying to scribble out a check. Big Bank Hank wanted to pay his ISP bill. And so while he's scribbling away, somebody or something knocks on the window, very eerily. Very scary. I mean, it's late. pitch black. You're outside, you just want to make your payment and go home. So according to his description, 2 boys aged between 9 and 12 came knocking on his window. He described them as being somewhat olive-skinned. One was a curly-haired young man and the other was a red-headed, pale-skinned, freckled young man. And according to him, both of them had hoods on. The first boy started to explain to him that they forgot their money. They forgot their bling. That the boys were going to watch the premiere of Mortal Kombat. And this is where we have to stop the story here. There is no way that hybrid kids or demonic kids are going to sit around outside somebody's car saying they forgot their money at their mama's house and they were there to watch the premiere of Mortal Kombat. But apparently, he's looking at these kids. He's looking a little skittish. He might be shaking in his boots. And so the kids continued. They continued to push. Dude, give me a ride. They didn't use the word dude, but I'm improvising. Give me a ride. My mama's house is not that far away. We don't have guns. We're not going to hurt you. We just want to get our money so that we can watch Mortal Kombat. I mean, have a heart, man. Whatever was going on between these 3 folks, Mr. Bethel said that he found himself unconsciously reaching for the door handle. Something broke his unconscious act. And he says that when he made real eye contact with these 2 hoodlums, that their eyes were completely black. Black, like the demons you see on TV. So at that moment, when he saw what he described was these 2 black pools of darkness on the faces of these two bratty twerps, he made up excuses. He made up all these reasons why he could not take these 2 demonic freaks to their mama's house. But while he did that, he decided to shift his car into gear and take off. While he was pulling away, he looked in the rearview mirror and the kids vanished. Gone, kaput, in what he describes was a mere few seconds. So of course, being the prolific journalist that he is, he starts sending out messages and posting stories about what happened to him. And the story grew from there. And so besides his experience, there were other stories that were being published. As a matter of fact, Brian Bethel actually appeared on a TV show. He appeared in Monsters and Mysteries in America. And you can see a small clip of this on YouTube, and I'm sure there is somewhere where you can see the whole thing, where he goes through his experience. But according to him, when he went to tell one of his friends about what happened, that individual stopped him and said that they had a dream a few days before that they had met some individuals with black eyes. Is this a coincidence? Was this some kind of a message for him? I don't know. But what I do know is that the black-eyed children are not specific just to the state of Texas anymore. They're everywhere. They're widespread. Somebody is seeding black-eyed children. And as I stated earlier, no one knows if these are of demonic origin or hybrids, alien hybrids that maybe have gone rogue. So today, Brian Bethel, like I said, is still in Abilene, Texas, and you can find some of his work as he is employed by the Abilene Reporter News. So you can check him out, look him up. I came across an article by him that was syndicated from the Abilene Reporter News to Newsday. But since his encounter there have been other folks reporting the same situation. And no matter how you look at this situation, no matter how the story begins, the encounters are often the same. An individual is at home alone, the middle of the night, and they hear a knock on the door. When they look, normally what they find is children, normally also in pairs. There have been some accounts where there might be some black-eyed adults with them as well. And most of the stories are the same. It's either raining or it's cold or it's a situation outside environmentally that would make you think that these poor children have been left out in the cold, in the dark, but they're insistent on wanting to come into your home. And most of the time, people do not let them in. Many of them will ask them, "Where are your parents?" To which the black-eyed children will reply, "They'll be here soon." I don't know about you, but I for damn sure do not want whatever gave birth to those kids coming to my house. Many people, when they come across these little twerps, little black-eyed twerps knocking on their doors, are overwhelmed with fear. Some will grab a weapon. Some will grab a phone and try to get the police on the line. But they mostly report not letting the kids in. But I did come across a story out of Vermont where one couple decided to let them in. And I will tell you right now, let this couple be your poster child for don'tletthemin.com, because what happens to them, it's not very nice. In fact, the effects of letting these black-eyed whippersnappers into their house lasted for years. So let's talk about that real quick. So first, the story was posted in 2016, October to be exact. And the individual, of course, is not named, nor is the town in Vermont. It's things like this to drive me bananas, but I understand that people don't want to be identified for whatever reason. But they reported this. Their account starts like they mostly do. Right? So they have these two kids outside in the cold, freezing the little bunions off in the AM early morning. Husband and wife. From the sounds of it, they're an elderly couple. So what better victims for black-eyed hooligans? So according to the story, it was a little bit over a year after this particular article was posted that the two black-eyed children showed up on their doorstep. The family lived in a small home on a dirt road in a rural town. It was the middle of a snowstorm, and there's a knock on the door. The wife awakens to hear the knocking on the door. She wakes her husband because she feels she'll be safer if he accompanies her to find out who's knocking. So what's a little strange about this story is that they never looked to see who was knocking. The husband, being the hero of the moment, went straight to open the door. And lo and behold, the black-eyed kids were there. So immediately, when they gazed upon these two children, she states that normally she probably would have rushed to get them covered and give them some hot chocolate, a little bit of cocoa to warm them up. But apparently, an overwhelming amount of fear came over her, and she was immediately cautious. The kids never made eye contact while at the door. They were looking down. But they were asking to be let into the home. The husband turned to the wife and asked her, "What do you want me to do?" The kids again asked to come into the home. So she asked them, "Where are your parents?" They stated they'll be here soon. This all occurred around 2 o'clock in the morning. So immediately she thought that maybe something happened. Maybe these parents were in some kind of an accident, or maybe these kids were somewhat lost. But instinctually she felt like she shouldn't do it. Now there is something wrong when there's two ankle biters at your door in the middle of a snowstorm, no less, and you don't want to let them into your home. Well, geez, lady, the door's already open. If something's telling you to keep these two little snot-nosed demonic freaks out of your house, then for God's sake, just close the door. But she doesn't, nor does he. So they come in to the home. She goes into the kitchen to make some hot cocoa for these two lovely freaks. The husband sits with them in the living room. When she walks in with the hot cocoa, she notices that he's got his head down, and apparently his nose has started to bleed. She looks over at the kids and finally makes eye contact. They're black-eyed babies. Demonic, scary, black-eyed, demon-walking twerp. So when they noticed that she was startled by their black eyes, they asked her if they can go to the restroom. So she actually walked them to the restroom and went back to tend to her husband because he was taken ill all of a sudden. So while she was tending to the husband and these two riffraff were in the restroom doing God knows what, the power went out. Now everyone had black eyes. It was pitch black. So after a brief moment, an encounter between her and the black-eyed kids in the middle of this darkness, her husband's nosebleed and feeling faint, if you will, and she's scared, whatless. The boy says, "My parents are here." And here is where it gets a little crazy, because apparently a black car is idling outside. Standing next to it is two men dressed in black. And the black-eyed children willfully, gleefully make their way into the car, and the four of them leave. Apparently, a few hours later, the power comes back on. But things don't end for this couple there, because they end up going through a lot of different things afterwards. Their pets were dying. The husband, after continuously suffering nosebleeds, goes to the doctor and was diagnosed with terminal skin cancer. The type of skin cancer that they see when people sit on their hot lamps trying to get a suntan. His form of melanoma was linked to overuse of indoor tanning. And apparently, he'd never, ever done such a thing in his life. The couple continuously suffered from dizzy spells, nosebleeds, and all kinds of ailments. And to this day, or as of October of 2016, the woman says that she really wished that her husband had not opened the door the way he did. Of course, it's not like she couldn't have just shut the door, but it's all his fault. So the story for me does not end there, because we have someone who is allegedly a victim of these black-eyed kids, but all we know is what state they were in, and that there was a snowstorm that kind of facilitated them letting these two black-eyed hoodlums into their home. But thanks to the magic of social media, I've got an individual that sent me a tweet. And listen, if you guys are not sending me tweets with the info you got, you're missing out. Have a discussion. I'm here to talk about this stuff with you guys, and I learned from you, believe it or not. And when I learn, everybody else learns, because I had no idea that on YouTube, there's an individual who's actually been filming black-eyed kids. And no, they're not some kids at a local middle school that got beat up. He also lives on a dirt road, and I haven't caught exactly where this dirt road is, but apparently he's on a dirt road, and he has been coming across these black-eyed kids. In fact, in his videos, he has captured them as he's crossed their path, and apparently he's a bit of a geek, I can say, because he's recorded what appears to be their form of communication. He's actually been able to record this because he believes that black-eyed kids hang out in packs like werewolves. And he's been able to play it back, and there is one particular video, which it took him, I believe, like 5 nights, where a black-eyed kid actually showed up at his home after he'd been playing that sound for all those days. So apparently this guy is also getting together with other researchers, paranormal researchers, and folks that are into cryptids and things like that. And they've put together a map as well, where they're tracking sightings of black-eyed kids. And when I said earlier, it's not just a Texas thing, there are black-eyed kids reported all over the place. These are not the kids that you just throw a steak at them and call it a day. No, sir. These are the black-eyed kids that tormented this couple. These are the same black-eyed kids. Well, maybe Mr. Bethel in Abilene did not really come across these kind of black-eyed kids. If his story is the origin of this, the stories have become more and more scarier, more darker than what his experience was. But like I said, you need to take his experience and what he did and what most people do, and that is don't engage these black-eyed twerps, because nobody knows what the heck their real origin is and what their intent is. The story from Vermont might have been trumped up. I can definitely say that I feel that a lot of it is extremely fictional. But I want to say this. If you come across a black-eyed kid, you better use your common sense. Leave that little half-breed outside. Let somebody else come and scoop him up. And lastly, the story in Vermont was a little fascinating to me because they brought in the idea that maybe the men in black are connected to these black-eyed kids, and that's where people see a connection to those theories that there might be some kind of hybridization, that these are the results of aliens creating hybrid humans, right? Because we know the Greys have those big black almond-shaped eyes. And maybe that's what transferred over to these kids, these hybridized kids. In any case, this is what you wanted to hear. Next week for the midweek episode, we're going to do the same because this is quite fascinating. So don't forget to reach out to me on Facebook, on the Manny Moonraker page, the UFO Buster Radio page, on Twitter at UFO Buster Radio, or on Instagram at Manny Moonraker. So, with that said, sayonara, adios, ciao.